Okay, well, welcome everybody to our latest Site Leaders Connect Insight interview. Today we have the pleasure of speaking with Edward Gonzalez. Eddie, if you could introduce yourself and tell us why you chose to be an educational leader.
All right. Yeah, Eddie Gonzalez. I'm not sure how I've done it yet, but somehow I've managed to teach everything from grades 6 through 12. Special education, language arts, science, history, math. I absolutely love all of them. I'm pretty sure I'll have worked in every position possible before I hang up my dry erase markers. I'm sure I'll teach kindergarten too. So I love the teaching. I love learning. I love everything about it. But the one thing I've never really considered myself is to be an educational leader, and I kind of have issue. I have a little bit of an issue with at least for myself, not when people say that they're a leader, but for myself, I don't like the term in the sense that I grew up always playing team sports, and with even if you're the captain on the team, you didn't come out and say that you were the leader of the team. It was always the collective that was a part of it. It's but with that in mind, I'm also kind of competitive. I want my team to be the best team. I want my kids to be the best. I want my school to be the best. I want the people that I work around with, and I don't mean it in a negative way, but I just want to, I like everybody to, I like seeing the best in everybody, because it brings out the best in myself.
All right. Well, I would say that the definition of a leader is someone who wants to serve others and empower them to do great things and to be the best they can be. So in my not so humble, let's be honest, in my not so humble opinion, I would definitely call you a leader. I would say that you're certainly making a difference, both with the students that you serve, as well as the teachers that you lead in your classes and such. So today, I know you're going to talk about peer teaching, but taking it a little further and allowing students to lead and to teach. And so, could you go ahead and Eddie actually won? He won an award, the Leroy Finkel Fellowship Award, for this project and for the great work that he's doing. So we're very excited to have you here. Could you share a little bit about your story and what you're doing, and tell us a little bit about how that has made an impact in both students' lives as well as teachers' lives?
Okay, so I'm actually the whole peer teaching thing. It's I got that from a gentleman named Dr. Joe Dixon, and that was out in Lindsay. And maybe I'm kind of doing it with my own flavor now, but it's all from him. And I never believed in it. And I remember kind of being like angry sometimes at the conversations I would have with Dr. Dixon, because he would say, "No, Eddie, the kids have to do all of it." And I really thought, I was like, he's crazy. Like, this guy, it doesn't make any sense. I've gone to school. I know what I'm doing. Like, I didn't really understand. But I was at this weird point in my life where I decided that I was going to listen to people and follow follow directions. And yeah, that was it started out with that. He said, I want kids to do all the teaching. I want the kids to run the professional development. And I thought, I didn't see it. I thought it was like a crazy concept, because I hadn't seen that before. Staff development was supposed to be boring, and that was like my time to draw and sit in the back or something, but check my email. So the first time that I did that was about 5 years ago, and it was and that was the other little piece that came with it, was he didn't let me choose who I wanted to come to peer teach. He said, "You're gonna take those kids that kind of wander in here after school from the after school program, because they don't really want to go to after school." And that was that was a, odd collection of kids with, with different levels, different behavior issues, but they just kind of gravitated to my class after school. And so that's kind of what kicked me off. And ever since then, since 5 years ago, I've always, I feel like I was kind of like a bad Adam Sandler from The Wedding Singer, where I was always kind of singing cover songs. Like for a few years, I was always re-singing Dr. Dixon songs, and people would be like, hey, that's really cool, that's unique. And I'm like, yeah, but if you knew Dr. Dixon, you knew that I was just, I'm singing his song right now. And then over the last couple of years, some pretty cool new things have come along. And this year I had the opportunity to bring, I teach at Cal State Bakersfield in the teacher credential program. And I set up a workshop, had a bunch of kids come out, or a bunch of students come out from Cal State Bakersfield. And then a bunch of 7th grade middle school kids from Emerson Middle School ran the entire workshop for the adults, and the adults left like absolutely excited and happy. Then I took that group of kids to the Kern Q Tech Fest, and they did another little workshop for about 18 educators that showed up, and those people left absolutely excited. And then my big thing was, how do I scale that? Because it kind of started becoming what I didn't want it to become, which is it became kind of, it was like a little clique. And that's cool. I love, like I said, I love the whole team spirit, the camaraderie, but I wanted to reach all my kids, or I wanted to reach as many of them as possible. So then the big idea became, how do I leverage this and get as many kids as possible to experience teaching adults, and how do I get more and more of my tough students to keep coming in? So then with the Leroy Finkel Fellow, what that gave me was, it gave me the opportunity to secure transportation to take an entire class out to Cal State Bakersfield. And last Thursday, we did our workshop where we came in with 19 students into the class here at Cal State Bakersfield. And of course, the kids rose to the occasion, kids of all levels, and they ran a much better class than I've ever ran. And I'm not embarrassed to say that the adults looked like they'd had more fun than any class that I'd ever run or facilitated all on my own. And that's that's kind of what I'm up to. Again, my goal is just to show that these little kids, that they it doesn't matter what community, where they're coming from, that they can be the real leaders. Those are the leaders. Those are it, and they're the change agents. We talk about, like people will say, you're a change agent, or you want to come and make a change. But I don't want to change anybody. I mean, the kids, for better or for worse, they've changed me all kinds, and I think I'm better for it. And so recently I read an interesting quote that was from it was Father Greg Boyle. He does work with people that were in gangs and incarcerated, and he says that he doesn't want to change anybody. He's just trying to create a community of kinship that would be so blessed that God would recognize it. And when I think of working with kids, I'm not trying to change anybody either. I just I'm hoping to have a learning environment where I can continue to learn and enjoy myself, and these little guys can see themselves in the learning environment and do their best too. And I don't always reach it. I don't always reach the ideal, but every year, like I enter the year like I'm hoping we do something special, and I'm hoping these kids walk away with something good. But that's what I'm up to, and it's exciting, and I love it.
Absolutely, yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I have to say also something I noticed, because I was at you had some kids come to our tech rodeo, where we had a whole bunch of teachers from the entire region, and what was really exciting was, yes, what you're doing is impacting kids and it's empowering them. But what I saw, from my vantage point, was that what these students were doing was impacting teachers. And so what was really exciting, some of the teachers because for your class at Cal State Bakersfield, they have to go, right? Like it's like a required class, and so they're like, okay, I have to listen, to what he wants to, to these kids because he tells me to. But at Tech Rodeo, I think the teachers kind of didn't know what to think of this. Especially some of their older teachers, they've never been to PD that's run by kids, and so some of them were skeptical. I could tell they kind of just didn't know, like, really, I can learn from a student. Like, I teach students. I'm the teacher. And so at first, there weren't as many that were wanting to go and learn from your students. But what I heard that was really exciting, and they started to catch on, and they, it started building the excitement. But what I saw that was really cool was I had a few teachers say that the students were sitting in the sessions with the teachers. And so while it wasn't being taught by the students, those facilitators, those professional learning facilitators that called on students and the insight that they provided changed the entire culture, like, of that room. Like, all of a sudden, if there's a kid that says, oh yeah, my teacher does that, that works pretty well, or yeah, that just not really works for me. I think it reminds teachers that it's not about them, it's about the students. And so that's something that, again, totally doing stuff that's awesome for kids, but I think sometimes we forget the impact on teachers as well. And so I just wanted to share that little bit of insight because it was a little bit of a different take on that. What has this done for the students, though? How have you seen them change through this experience?
It's well, so when I here's one of them that's different, and I didn't because the school I'm at, it's at the beginning of a turnaround effort. Literally, this is the first year that it was turned into a focus school, and so when I started doing the little after school club, I only wanted like the toughest kids. That was my intervention, and then other kids started to show up also, and but it was like, to me, I was kind of like, hey, but you're really smart. You're really smart, and I didn't expect you to want to join. And some of the changes I've seen was because I've worked with like high achieving engaged students, but some of the changes I've seen with these kids is that they've proven to me that they really are smarter than me. They're just younger than me. They don't have all the education, or they don't have all the experiences and all the lumps that you've taken. But what I've seen from the kids is just it's impressive. Like, we had a couple of the kids get accepted into it's called the Tech Trek camp at CSU Fullerton, and those were a couple of my higher achieving students. But they did they went through the whole application process. Then they did an interview. And now kids from like the lowest middle school in Bakersfield are getting like a little scholarship to go out there, and they pushed a lot of that. When I was talking to the kids, I was telling them about how I'm starting my dissertation, and then I was explaining it to them, and then one of the girls tells me that when she had her interview, that they told her, so why do you like science? And she said, well, I don't really like science. And then my teacher told me that science. Or that there's no such thing as science, that science and history and everything, that they're all the same. And she started telling the interviewer about how a PhD is actually a doctorate in philosophy, and then she starts breaking down like the history of the silos and what how they're created. And then she says, and science really is it is history. And I was like, wow, you got all that from. Like, I know I explained it, but I didn't really think you guys were listening. And then one of those same students comes back. We're doing Genius Hour, and then she comes back and she says, Mr. Gonzalez, can you give me that source? And I was like, that source? Because I teach science and math, so it was kind of odd because I was like, source? I haven't heard you kids mention sources. And the source that she wanted me to give her a study that I had mentioned where they were the researchers had shown that when students are working with their peers, that they actually learn more and they get more engaged in physical education. And then she's telling me, oh, well, I want to do that for my Genius Hour project. I want to do that as a study. So then I tell her, well, do you know how we could set it up, like with a variable? And then she goes on and explains to me how she's already has all of that ready. And so I was like, all right, so you know, maybe maybe you all really are smarter than me. So on the higher end, with my higher achieving students, I've seen them kind of take off running with things that impressed me, you know, more than I expected. And then with some of my lower students with the behavior issues, you know, it's like it feels good when they barge into my class during lunch and they grab me by the shoulder and they're like, Gonzalez, come and look. I want you to see what I made. And I'm kind of like, oh wow, like you really are into it. And so, you know, it's just it's a different. It's blessings, I guess, is what it is, right? It's all blessings.
Absolutely, yeah. No, I think that the fact that you not only do you give them the opportunity to show that they're smart, you know, you say smarter than you or whatever, but I think that's huge, and I think kids can sense if we believe in them or not. And so I think they sense that belief. I think that's really important. So I commend you for for your attitude with them, and I think that's awesome. Now, if there are leaders out there watching today and they're wondering, okay, well that sounds great, Eddie, but like, how do I get this happening at my school? Like, if I have a teacher that maybe I think they're willing to try something like this, how would you recommend that they go about empowering their students to teach teachers, to maybe start with teaching each other and then teach teachers? And how would you recommend they go about doing that?
How I've set it up is so if you have one teacher that has something that they do that maybe you like, or something that you do that another teacher likes, and then the teacher says, hey, can you show me how to do that? Well, that's your opening, and your opening is, sure, I can send 5 kids down your way, and they could run the whole lesson for you, so you could watch it. And that's how I've done like small group instruction, where someone asked me, hey, how do you do the group rotation? And then I say, oh, okay, I'll send you 5 kids, and then those 5 kids go and they run it. And I'll have the kids go like with a little TV and an HDMI cable and their laptop, so they look like a whole little team. Yeah, that's one way. Another way is if you like if the class is tough, like if there's real behavior and you're kind of like, oh man, you know, I can't do that with this class. Well, you can select some of the tougher ones, keep them after school, not as a punishment, or I mean, you can say it's a punishment, but you sure don't make it look like a punishment, you know. Like when they show up, it's like, oh my goodness, like can I come again tomorrow? But and you use those kids to help you roll it out within your class. Then another way that I've done it is where a teacher says, I want my class to do that, but I'm not sure I can do it. Well, then you say, you come over this Friday at this time, and then my class is going to teach all of your class how to do it. And they're going to get it because they're going to have one-to-one tutors. So that's one way. And then another one is if you have like younger grade levels, it's powerful when you have the older grade level go down and teach the younger grade level. So nobody ever really buys into it. Whenever I would mention it, everybody kind of looks at me like the way I looked at Dr. Dixon, like, that even makes sense? Like, are you listening to yourself? But when they see the kids working with each other, there's a lot of special things that happen. And I've been reading, so I'm doing a literature review right now on it. And some of the things that I'm finding, because people will say, oh, well, of course the children are learning because they're teaching each other and that's engaging to them. But that's like a really small part of it. The other parts of it are when you're teaching, you only give so much feedback to all the kids, and that's if you give feedback to all the kids. But when they're working with each other one-to-one, they give each other much more feedback than you ever would give them. They also give the feedback to each other quicker than you ever would give them. And then if kids are being exposed to different peer tutors, they're also getting different pedagogies. So you have, even though we might say, oh, you know, I differentiate and I do this, there's a good chance that we kind of have our tricks that we are kind of sticking to. But kids have different, you know, different tricks. They have a whole different bags of tricks, and potentially you have, you know, 30 different bags of tricks in your classroom. And when you have the kids there, when they start going through the peer teaching motions, they're exposed to all of that. But you have to see it. It's one of those things where people, you know, show me the money. And then from there, the easiest one is to take kids to a conference, and Q is like really open. I mean, the local network affiliates, like it's like really open, like the tech rodeo. There's no reason why, you know, you can't show up with some of your kids. The first time I took the kids to a conference, actually, when we took the kids to the current Q Tech Fest, I didn't even say that it was the kids that were going to run it. Like people showed up wondering, wait a second, like,
nice.
This or what's going on?
That's good. I love it. I find that sometimes that's the best way to affect change, is to just like show up. Just show up.
Yeah. Just show up. Yeah.
Oh, you didn't know we were going to do this? Oh, well, we're here anyway, right? Yeah.
And you're going to enjoy it.
Exactly. Yeah. I love it. Well, thanks, Eddie. I really appreciate you spending your time with us and sharing your story. Are there any books you would recommend reading, or articles or blogs to follow, or anything like that for our viewers?
I can't think of any on the top of my head, but I've been reading a lot, and some of the models that I've seen peer teaching are they've happened out of different circumstances. And one of them that I've enjoyed reading a lot about, it's called they call it learning communities in Mexico, and their learning communities, their tutoring learning communities, started because they had a need for it, because in the rural areas they didn't have as much access to education. And so then it's called, in Spanish they call it tutorías, and I believe the website is 50fold. I'm not sure. I think it's 50fold.org. But yeah, that's something that's been pretty cool that I've been reading about, because kids have like little modules, and then their goal is to teach somebody a module and then have that person learn how to teach it to somebody else. And then the little modules are kind of like these little organic learning communities where the kids spread them. But then also you can follow my website, and I put up my experiences with peer teaching. It's eddiesclass.com. All
right. Well, thank you so much, Eddie. Like I said, we appreciate your time. I would encourage everyone to certainly go to www.siteleadersconnect.org, where we have our EduLeader database. So you can follow Eddie on Twitter and go to his website, as well as many of our other amazing leaders that are on there. And I know Eddie says he doesn't like the term leader, but again, I think a leader, but a leader is someone that serves. And I think that you certainly serve with passion the students and teachers that you are with. So thanks again. And everyone be sure to check out the website and follow us, follow the hashtag on Twitter. Thanks so much.
Thank you.